spiritual awakening breath, the quantum breath technique for the chosen one. You take roughly 20,000 breaths every single day. 20,000 times your diaphragm contracts, your lungs expand, gas is exchanged, and life is sustained. But here is the terrifying statistic. For 99% of the population, 19,999 of those breaths are unconscious. They are mechanical. They are reactive. They are dead breaths. Most people live their entire lives without ever truly taking a single conscious breath. They treat breathing like a background utility app running on their phone, something that just happens while they are busy scrolling, worrying, and rushing toward the grave. They assume that because they are breathing, they are alive. This is a fatal error. In the philosophy of the Matrix 963, there is a profound difference between surviving and living. Surviving is a biological reflex. Living is a conscious act. If you are watching this, you are likely feeling the symptoms of the great shift we discussed in previous transmissions. You feel the exhaustion that sleep cannot fix. You feel the anxiety humming beneath your skin like a high-voltage wire. You feel disconnected, as if your mind is floating 3 inches above your body. You have tried meditation, but your mind is too loud. You have tried visualization, but your focus is too scattered. You have tried thinking positive, but your body is still screaming in fear. Why? Because you are trying to hack the matrix with the wrong code. You are trying to change your reality with your thoughts, top-down processing, but your body is stuck in a biological panic loop, bottom-up processing. You cannot pilot a spaceship if the engine is on fire, and right now your nervous system is on fire. This transmission is not about relaxation. We are not here to teach you how to relax at a spa. We are here to hand you the manual for your own biological machine. We are going to explore the science of the breath, not as a spiritual metaphor, but as a physiological switch. We will deconstruct the vagus nerve, the secret fiber optic cable that connects your brain to the quantum field. We will analyze the Bohr effect and the chemistry of fear, and we will teach you the quantum pause, the precise millisecond where you can slip through the cracks of the matrix and reprogram your subconscious mind. The breath is the only function in your body that acts as a bridge. It is the only system that is both autonomic, it happens when you sleep, and somatic, you can control it when you wake up. It is the only leash you have to tame the wild horse of the mind. If you control the breath, you control the nervous system. If you control the nervous system, you control the frequency. And if you control the frequency, you control the reality. But before we hand you the keys to the machine, we must verify that the pilot is in the seat. We need to know that you are not just passively consuming this data like a sleepwalker. We need to know that you are ready to override the autopilot. Warning: this transmission contains protocols that will manually override your autonomic nervous system. This is not entertainment. This is a biological recalibration. To execute this code successfully, you must maintain a conscious connection until the sequence is complete. Do not skip. Do not multitask. Initiate the protocol now. Signal your presence to the algorithm below. I am online. Confirm that the pilot has taken the wheel. Chapter 1. The Biological Machine. To understand why you are exhausted, we must first look at the hardware you are running. Your body is a biological machine that was designed 2,000 years ago. It hasn't had a major hardware update since the Stone Age. This machine has two primary operating modes. The sympathetic nervous system, this is the fight or flight mode. It is the gas pedal. It is designed for short bursts of intense survival energy. The parasympathetic nervous system, this is the rest and digest mode. It is the brake pedal. It is designed for healing, regeneration, and creation. In the ancient world, the sympathetic system, the gas, was only used in emergencies. You see a tiger, your eyes dilate, your heart rate spikes, your blood thickens to clot faster if bitten, your digestion shuts down, your breath becomes short, shallow, and located in the upper chest. You run, you survive, and then the tiger is gone. You sit under a tree, you take a long, deep sigh. Your system switches back to parasympathetic, the brake. You heal, you recover. The stress cycle was completed. But look at your life today. There is no tiger. Instead, there is an email from your boss. There is a notification on your phone. There is a bill in the mail. There is the traffic jam. There is the news cycle of doom. To your ancient biological machine, all of these things are tigers. Your amygdala, the threat detection center of your brain, cannot tell the difference between a predator wanting to eat you and a deadline at work. It triggers the same biological response. So, you are hitting the gas pedal all day, every day. You wake up in fight or flight. You drive to work in fight or flight. You scroll social media in fight or flight. You even sleep in a low-grade state of fight or flight. And how do you breathe during this state? Observe yourself right now. Do not change it, just watch. Is your breath deep in your belly, or is it shallow, stuck in your throat or upper chest? Are you breathing rhythmically, or are you holding your breath while you concentrate? 99% of you are over-breathing. You are taking short, shallow sips of air 20 times a minute. This is the respiratory pattern of fear. Here is the glitch in the matrix, the loop. You feel stressed. Your breathing becomes shallow, tiger breath. Your breathing becomes shallow. Your vagus nerve signals to the brain that the tiger is still here. Your brain releases more cortisol and adrenaline. You feel more stressed. You are trapped in a biofeedback loop of anxiety. You are running your engine at 7,000 RPM while the car is parked. This is why you are the chosen one who is always tired. You are not tired because you are doing too much work. You are tired because your machine is inefficient. You are leaking energy through your breath. You are burning high-octane fuel just to sit still. This state of chronic sympathetic dominance shuts down your higher functions. When you're running from a tiger, you do not need to digest food. You do not need a strong immune system. You certainly do not need a libido, and you certainly do not need higher consciousness. The brain shuts down the blood flow to the prefrontal cortex, logic, creativity, and intuition, and redirects it to the muscles. You literally become stupider when you are stressed. You lose access to the 5D frequency. You lose access to the creator mode. You become a reactive animal, purely focused on 3D survival. This is the design of the matrix control system. A population that breathes in survival mode is a population that cannot rebel, cannot create, and cannot ascend. They keep you scared, so you keep breathing shallow. They keep you breathing shallow, so you stay scared. To break the cycle, you must manually grab the gear stick. You must learn to shift gears. Chapter 2. The Vagus Nerve. So how do we hack this ancient machine? We cannot use positive thinking. Telling a person in a panic attack to just calm down is biologically impossible. Their physiology is flooding with adrenaline. The logic center is offline. You cannot fight biology with psychology. You must fight biology with biology. Enter the vagus nerve. In Latin, vagus means wandering. This is the 10th cranial nerve, and it is the longest, most complex nerve in your body. It wanders from your brainstem down your neck, wraps around your vocal cords, touches your heart, hugs your lungs, and dives deep into your gut. It is the fiber optic cable of the parasympathetic nervous system. It is the superhighway of information between your body and your brain. Here is the secret that Big Pharma does not want you to master. 80% of the information on the vagus nerve flows upstream from body to brain. Only 20% flows downstream from brain to body. This explains everything. This explains why you cannot think your way out of anxiety. Your brain is only 20% of the equation. Your body, heart, lungs, gut, is screaming danger at 80% volume. To change your mind, you must change the signal coming from the body. The vagus nerve has a language, and that language is the breath, specifically the exhalation. When you inhale, your heart rate speeds up slightly, sympathetic activation. When you exhale, your heart rate slows down, parasympathetic activation. This is biological law. When you engage in a long, slow, deep exhalation, you are physically stimulating the vagus nerve. You are sending a high-priority signal up the fiber optic cable directly to the amygdala. The message is, the tiger is gone. We are safe. Engage creator mode. This is the mechanics of scientific mysticism. When the ancient yogis talked about kundalini rising up the spine or the prana channels, they were mapping the nervous system before we had microscopes. The vagus nerve is the physical manifestation of the peace channel. But here is where it gets deeper. The vagus nerve controls your HRV, heart rate variability. HRV is the gold standard metric of biological age and spiritual resilience. A low HRV means your heart is beating like a metronome, rigid, stressed, stuck in survival. A high HRV means your heart is dancing, flexible, adaptive, responsive to the moment. The chosen one, the one who can hold the 5D frequency, must have a high HRV. You need a nervous system that is resilient enough to handle the high voltage of awakening. If your vagus nerve is weak, low vagal tone, you are fragile. You get triggered easily. You stay angry for days. You absorb other people's negative energy like a sponge. You feel frozen or paralyzed when you try to manifest your dreams. This is not a character flaw. This is a hardware issue. Your internet connection to the quantum field is laggy. The good news is you can tone this nerve just like you tone a muscle at the gym. You can upgrade your bandwidth. Every time you take a conscious, rhythmic breath, you are doing a rep for your vagus nerve. You are scraping away the rust of the matrix. You are telling your body that you are no longer a victim of the environment. but a master of your internal state. Alan Watts often asked, "Who is breathing? Is it you doing it, or is it the universe doing it?" When the vagus nerve is blocked, you are trying to breathe against the resistance of the world. It is a struggle. When the vagus nerve is open, the resistance drops, the boundary dissolves. You stop breathing and you start being breathed. You enter the flow state. This is the biological basis of enlightenment. It is not just a spiritual idea. It is a state of high vagal tone where the illusion of separation, fear, physically collapses in the nervous system. So the question is not, how do I awaken? The question is, how do I unclog the cable? How do we use the physics of oxygen and carbon dioxide to force the vagus nerve into submission? How do we initiate the quantum pause? We will explore the chemistry of this mechanism in the next chapter. But first, you must understand that your exhaustion is a symptom of a blocked signal. You are trying to download 5D data on a dial-up connection. It is time to install the fiber optics. Chapter 3: The Chemistry of Fear. We have discussed the wiring of your machine, the vagus nerve. Now we must examine the fuel that runs through it. And here we arrive at the single greatest lie ever told about human health. A lie so pervasive, so innocent-sounding, that it is responsible for keeping 99% of the population in a state of chemical anxiety and spiritual paralysis. The lie is this instruction: take a big, deep breath. When you are stressed, when you are crying, when you are having a panic attack, what does the world tell you to do? Just breathe, they say. Take a deep breath. And what do? You open your mouth. You heave your chest upward. You gasp like a fish out of water. You gulp down a massive volume of air. This is exactly the wrong thing to do. In fact, biologically speaking, this is how you induce a panic attack. This is how you turn a spark of anxiety into a forest fire of terror. To understand why, we must look at the counterintuitive laws of biochemistry. We must introduce you to a man named Christian Bohr. In 1904, this Danish physiologist discovered a law that governs every cell in your body. It is called the Bohr Effect. Here is the common misconception. You think that breathing more air equals getting more oxygen. It sounds logical. It sounds right. But the body does not work on linear logic. It works on chemical affinity. Right now, as you sit there listening to my voice, your blood is already 95% to 99% saturated with oxygen. You do not have an oxygen intake problem. Your blood is full of it. You have an oxygen delivery problem. You have plenty of fuel in the tanker truck, the arteries, but the hose is locked. You cannot get the fuel into the house, the cells, the brain, the mitochondria. So what is the key that unlocks the hose? What is the chemical signal that tells your blood to release the oxygen to your tissues? The answer will shock you. The key is carbon dioxide, CO2. In the 3D matrix education system, you were taught that oxygen is good and carbon dioxide is waste. This is a gross simplification. In the human biological machine, carbon dioxide is not waste. It is the master regulator of your metabolism. Think of hemoglobin, the red blood cells, as a taxi driver. Think of oxygen as the passenger. Think of carbon dioxide as the cash. The taxi driver, hemoglobin, picks up the passenger, oxygen, from the lungs. He drives around your body. He arrives at your brain. But He's a greedy driver. He has a high affinity for his passenger. He does not want to let the passenger out. He will only unlock the doors if the passenger pays him in cash. No cash, no ride. If your CO2 levels are too low, the hemoglobin holds on to the oxygen with a death grip. It circulates right past your brain, right past your heart, and goes back to the lungs without delivering the goods. So what happens when you follow the Matrix's advice and take a big deep breath? Or when you chronically overbreathe, mouth breathing, sighing, or panting due to stress? You are exhaling too much CO2. You are throwing your cash out the window. You are bankrupting your system. When you hyperventilate, even micro-hyperventilation, which is invisible to the eye, your CO2 levels drop below the threshold, usually 35 mmHg. This triggers a chemical cascade of disaster. The Bohr Effect kicks in. Hemoglobin refuses to release oxygen. This is called hypoxia. Your brain literally starts to suffocate, even though your lungs are full of air. Vasoconstriction. CO2 is a natural vasodilator which widens blood vessels. When CO2 drops, your veins and arteries clamp shut. Blood flow to your brain decreases by up to 40% within 1 minute of overbreathing. pH imbalance. Your blood becomes too alkaline, respiratory alkalosis. This excites your nervous system. Your neurons become trigger-happy. They start firing random signals of danger. The result? Your hands get cold and clammy. Your lips might tingle. You feel lightheaded or spaced out, dissociation. Your heart starts to race, and most importantly, you feel a sense of impending doom. Does this sound familiar? This is the exact biological signature of anxiety. It is also the signature of a bad trip. It is the signature of a nervous breakdown, and it is entirely self-inflicted by the way you breathe. The chosen one is often someone with a highly sensitive nervous system. You are an empath. You feel the energy of the room. You feel the pain of the collective. Because of this sensitivity, you have unconsciously developed a defense mechanism. You overbreathe. You hold tension in your abs, forcing the breath into the upper chest. You take short, shallow sips of air to prepare for danger. You are constantly blowing off your CO2 shield. This leaves your vagus nerve exposed, raw, and unshielded. To hack the matrix, you must do the exact opposite of what society tells you. To calm down, you do not need to breathe more. You need to breathe less. You need to accumulate CO2. You need to cultivate a sensation that we call air hunger. Air hunger is that slight, uncomfortable feeling that you want to breathe, but you hold back. It feels like mild suffocation. To the ego, this feels like death. The ego screams, "I need air, breathe now." But to the soul and the cells, this is medicine. As you tolerate that air hunger, CO2 levels rise. The taxi driver gets paid. Suddenly, the doors unlock. Your brain is flooded with oxygen. Your arteries dilate, widen. Your vagus nerve turns on. The fight or flight signal is cut. This is the secret of the ancient yogis who could sit in caves for weeks without moving. They were not magic. They were masters of CO2. They trained their chemoreceptors to tolerate massive levels of carbon dioxide, allowing them to remain in a state of high oxygenation and deep calm, even with very little breath. Low CO2 tolerance equals anxious, reactive, fragile. High CO2 tolerance equals calm, stoic, anti-fragile. If you can't handle the discomfort of holding your breath for 20 seconds,
How do you expect to handle the discomfort of holding a 5D frequency? How do you expect to navigate the collapse of the old world if you panic when your oxygen dips? Your biological resilience dictates your spiritual capacity. We are going to test your hardware right now. We are going to measure your BOLT score, body oxygen level test. This is not a spiritual quiz. This is a physiological audit. This number will tell you mathematically if you are living in survival mode or creator mode. There is no hiding from the data.
The biological test. We need to establish your baseline. Sit up straight, spine erect, shoulders relaxed. Do not force this. We need the truth, not a high score. Here is the protocol. Take a normal, silent breath in through your nose. Take a normal, silent breath out through your nose. Pinch your nose with your fingers to seal it. Hold the breath. Count the seconds until you feel the first distinct urge to breathe. Warning: this is not a competition. Do not turn blue. Do not hold until you spasm. As soon as your diaphragm twitches or your throat wants to gasp, stop and release. If you have to gasp for air when you stop, you held too long, and the test is invalid. The breath after the hold should be calm. Are you ready? Inhale softly. Exhale softly. Pinch and hold. The timer starts counting up from 0000. Relax the body. Ignore the panic. Observe the sensation. 10 seconds. "15 seconds. 20 seconds. 30 seconds. Stop. Release your nose. Breathe normally. Now look at your number. Let us diagnose your reality. 0 to 15 seconds, survival mode, critical. Your CO2 tolerance is critically low. Your system is in a chronic physiological stress. You are likely suffering from anxiety, brain fog, fatigue, and poor sleep. You are reacting to the matrix, not creating it. Your vagus nerve is offline. 15 to 25 seconds, functional, average. You are coping. You can get through the day, but your system is taxing itself. You likely crash in the afternoons or rely on caffeine or sugar. You have sporadic moments of clarity, but the fog returns. 25 to 40 seconds, creator mode, optimized. Your system is efficient. Your blood chemistry is balanced. You remain calm under pressure. You can hold higher frequencies without burning out. 40+ seconds, flow state, master. You have the physiology of an elite athlete or a Zen master. Your connection to the quantum field is broadband. Do not hide from the truth. The first step to healing is diagnosis. Log your result in the archives below. Write, "My baseline is," insert number. Let's see where the collective stands. There is no judgment here, only calibration. If you are low, we will build you up. But first, you must admit where you start.
Chapter 4: The Quantum Pause. Now that we have diagnosed the chemistry, we must enter the physics. We have cleared the hardware. Now let's update the software. Let's talk about the gap. Alan Watts, the great philosophical trickster, often reminded us of a simple truth. Music is not the notes. If you play every note on a piano continuously without stopping, that is not music. That is noise. That is chaos. Music is the silence between the notes. The rhythm is defined by the emptiness. The form is defined by the space. Your life is the same. Look at your current existence. It is a continuous stream of noise. Inhale, exhale, input, output, action, reaction, think, do. There is no space, and because there is no space, there is no choice. You are a biological robot executing a pre-written program. Stimulus happens, you react. You are not living, you are being lived by your conditioning. But there is a back door, a glitch in the system where you can slip out of the program and enter the control room. It is called the quantum pause, or kumbhaka in the Sanskrit traditions. It is the space between the inhale and the exhale, and the space between the exhale and the inhale. Physiologically, this pause is profound. When you stop the breath, especially on the exhale or retention, you stop the input of the world. You suspend the biological clock. In that moment of stillness, strange things happen to the brain. Neuroscience shows that during breath retention, the DMN begins to shut down. The DMN is the part of the brain that creates the ego. It is the storyteller that says, "I am this, I am that, I am worried, I am late." When the breath stops, the ego begins to dissolve. It panics, then it silences. Your brain waves slow down from beta, thinking, to alpha, awareness, and eventually dip into theta, subconscious access. Think of it like the refresh rate of a computer monitor. The screen looks like a continuous image, but it is actually blinking in and out of existence 60 times a second. Reality works the same way. It is blinking in and out of existence. In the quantum pause, you are catching reality in the off phase. You are stepping into the liminal space, the threshold between worlds. This is why the ancients called the breath the chord of life. When you breathe in, you are saying yes to life. You are engaging with the simulation. You are taking in data. When you breathe out, you are saying yes to death. You are letting go of the simulation. You are letting go of data. And in the pause, you are neither alive nor dead. You are eternal. You are pure potential energy. This is the mechanics of the observer effect. You cannot truly be the observer if you are constantly reacting. The pause breaks the chain of reaction. Something triggers you, an insult, a bill, a fear. The 3D human, trigger to reaction, robotic. The chosen one, trigger to pause, to choice, sovereign. In that fraction of a second of stillness,
You disconnect from the 3D avatar, the body, ego, and you reconnect with the player, the soul. You look at the situation from a higher dimension. You realize, I am not this anger. I am the one noticing the anger. The grip of the matrix slips. The emotional charge dissipates. This technique is the most powerful tool for subconscious reprogramming. Why? Because the subconscious mind opens when the conscious mind is suspended. When you hold your breath comfortably, the critical factor, the guard at the door of your mind, gets distracted. He is worried about the air. He leaves his post. While he's distracted, you can slip a command into the root directory. This is why manifestation works best in the breathless state. You do not visualize when you are breathing hard. You visualize inside the pause. You implant the seed in the void. You feel the wish fulfilled in the void. And when you inhale again, you water that seed with life force, prana. Stop rushing your breath. Stop rushing your life. The magic is not in the air. The magic is in the stopping of the air. Learn to linger in the void. That is where God lives. That is where you truly live.
Chapter 5. Somatic Memory. Now, we must address the cost of this work. We must talk about the purge. Many of you, when you start practicing this quantum breath, will not feel peace. You will feel chaos. You might start crying uncontrollably for no logical reason. You might feel your hands curling up into claws, tetany. You might feel your body shaking, vibrating, or convulsing. You might feel intense heat or freezing cold. The matrix medical system calls this a panic attack or hyperventilation syndrome. The Matrix 963 tells you the truth. This is a data release. We must understand somatic memory. Your brain is not the only hard drive in your system. Your body is a hard drive. Specifically, your fascia. Fascia is the connective tissue that wraps around every muscle, organ, and nerve in your body. It is a crystalline matrix made of collagen and water. It is piezoelectric, meaning it generates and stores electricity. Every thought is an electric signal. Every emotion is a magnetic wave. So, what happens when you have a traumatic experience? Let's say you were 5 years old and your father yelled at you. You were terrified. Your biological impulse was to run or fight, but you couldn't. You were a child. You were trapped. So what did you do? You held your breath. You stiffened your muscles. You swallowed the scream. You went into the freeze response. When you held your breath, you locked that energetic frequency in your fascia. You trapped the adrenaline. You trapped the cortisol. You trapped the terror. It became a cyst of energy frozen in your tissue. You have been walking around for 30, 40 years carrying these energetic cysts. They are the heavy weight on your chest that never goes away. They are the chronic tension in your jaw. They are the reason you have lower back pain that no chiropractor can fix. You are a walking museum of your own trauma. Now, enter the quantum breath. When you start breathing deeply, rhythmically, and intentionally, you are generating a massive piezoelectric charge in the fascia. You are hyperoxygenating the system. You are raising the vibration of the body.
This high-frequency energy hits the low-frequency trauma cysts, and the ice begins to melt. The doors of the basement fly open. The ghosts come rushing out. This is not a bad thing. This is the entire point of the work. The crying is not sadness, it is the release of sadness. The shaking is not fear, it is the nervous system discharging decades of frozen voltage. Look at nature. When a gazelle escapes a lion, it doesn't just go back to grazing. It finds a safe spot and shakes violently for a few minutes. It resets its nervous system. It discharges the survival energy. Humans have forgotten how to shake. We have been conditioned to keep it together. So we stay frozen. We stay sick. When you do this breath work, you might experience tetany. Your hands cramp up into lobster claws. Do not panic. This is simple chemistry. As you breathe rapidly, your pH becomes alkaline. Calcium moves into the cells. The nerves become hyper-excitable. It is temporary. It is safe. But energetically, it represents your grip on reality. You are holding on so tight to control. When the hands cramp, the body is forcing you to let go. If this happens to you, do not stop. The only way out is through. If you stop when the shaking starts, you refreeze the trauma. You push the ghost back into the basement. You must breathe into the intensity. You must let the body move. Scream if you have to. Cry if you have to. Shake if you have to. The Matrix wants you to keep that trauma suppressed. Suppressed trauma keeps you in a low vibration. It keeps you sick. It keeps you buying pills and distractions. Trauma makes you a battery for the system. By breathing through it, you are reclaiming your energy. You are emptying the cache. You are not losing your mind. You are finding your body. You are moving from a solid state, frozen or traumatized, to a liquid state, flow or healed. And only in a liquid state can you flow into a new timeline. A rigid structure breaks in the storm. A fluid structure adapts. Allow the purge. It is just energy leaving the vessel to make room for the light.
Chapter 6. The Technique. We have diagnosed the hardware. We have purged the trauma. Now we must install the new operating system. We arrive at the how. But be warned, the simplicity of this technique is its disguise. The ego wants complexity. The ego wants a 10-step ritual with crystals, incense, and ancient chanting. The ego thinks that for a solution to be powerful, it must be difficult. The Matrix 963 is here to tell you, the most powerful code is the simplest code. Complexity is often just a distraction for the mind. Simplicity is the blade that cuts through the illusion. The technique we are about to download into your consciousness is known in scientific circles as coherent breathing or resonant frequency breathing. It is not designed to make you high like holotropic breathwork. It is not designed to make you hyper-alert like Tumo or Wim Hof. Those are tools for specific states. Coherent breathing is designed for one thing only: synchronization. It is designed to force your heart, your brain, and your nervous system to oscillate at the exact same frequency. When this happens,
you achieve a state of biological superconductivity. Resistance drops to zero. The signal becomes clear. Here is the biological magic number, 0.1 Hertz. When you breathe at a rate of roughly 5.5 to 6 breaths per minute, something miraculous happens to your physiology. Your Mayer waves, the natural oscillation of your blood pressure, sync up perfectly with your heart rate. Your baroreflex, the sensor that regulates blood pressure, hits peak sensitivity. Your vagus nerve is stimulated with maximum efficiency. You enter the resonance frequency. In this state, you are no longer fighting the body. You are riding the wave of the body. You are effectively hacking the autonomic nervous system to force it into safe mode.
The protocol, the 5.5 rhythm. Do not just listen to this. Do this with me. Sit comfortably, spine straight, like an antenna reaching for the sky. Feet flat on the floor, grounding the circuit. Close your eyes. Phase 1, the mechanic, nasality. The first rule of the matrix hack, mouth shut. The mouth is for eating and speaking. The nose is for breathing. When you breathe through the mouth, you trigger the sympathetic nervous system, fight or flight. Mouth breathing is the breath of a panting dog, a scared animal. When you breathe through the nose, you trigger the release of nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is a gas produced in the nasal cavities that sterilizes the air and, crucially, vasodilates, widens the blood vessels in the lungs. It increases oxygen absorption by 18%. So, seal your lips. Not tight, just closed. Teeth slightly apart. Tongue resting gently on the roof of the mouth, behind the front teeth. This creates a closed energetic circuit. Phase 2, the engine, the diaphragm. Now, place your hand on your belly, just above the navel. Most of you breathe vertically. Your shoulders go up and down. Your chest puffs out. This is ego breathing. It is shallow and inefficient. We want horizontal breathing. When you inhale, imagine a balloon in your stomach inflating. Your hand should move out. Your shoulders should remain absolute stone still. When the diaphragm moves down, it physically massages the vagus nerve. It pulls air into the deepest part of the lungs, where the blood is richest. If your chest is moving, you are running on backup power. Switch to the main engine. Belly out on the inhale, belly in on the exhale. Phase 3, the rhythm, the perfect loop. This is the code. We are going to breathe in for 5.5 seconds, and we are going to breathe out for 5.5 seconds. There is no pause at the top. There is no pause at the bottom. Note, the quantum pause we discussed earlier is a specific tool for reprogramming, but for this technique, for daily maintenance, we want a continuous circular loop, like a wheel turning, no jagged edges. Let's calibrate. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, softly. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, letting go. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, belly rises. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, belly falls.
Feel that? That is not just breathing, that is entrainment. You are forcing your biology into a rhythm. At first, it will feel mechanical. Your mind will count. That is okay. You are training a wild animal. The leash must be tight at first. Phase 4. The volume, the velvet breath. This is where the master is separated from the novice. A novice thinks deep breathing means big breathing. They make noise, they gasp, whoosh in, whoosh out. This is wrong. Remember Chapter 3. Remember the Bohr Effect. If you breathe too much air, you lose CO2. You constrict the blood vessels. We want LSD breathing. Light, slow, deep. Your breath should be so quiet that a feather placed under your nose would not move. It should be imperceptible. It should feel like a thin velvet thread of air entering and leaving. You are sipping the air, not gulping it. Create a slight air hunger. Feel that tiny urge to breathe more and gently refuse it. Stay with the thin thread. This accumulates CO2. This dilates the brain's arteries. This turns on the lights in the mansion. Phase 5. The visualization, the energy circuit. Now add the software to the hardware. As you inhale for 5.5 seconds, visualize white light traveling from the base of your spine up to the center of your brain, the pineal gland. As you exhale for 5.5 seconds, visualize that light cascading down your spine, grounding into the earth. Inhale, charge. Exhale, ground. Inhale, ascension. Exhale, manifestation. You are becoming a toroidal field. You are a donut of energy. The breath is the pump that keeps the field spinning. If you do this for 10 minutes a day, you are not just relaxing, you are rewiring the baseline voltage of your nervous system. You are training your body to exist in 5D. The matrix wants you erratic. It wants your heart rate to look like a jagged stock market crash. Coherent breathing turns that graph into a smooth, beautiful sine wave. A sine wave is the shape of the universe. It is the shape of light. It is the shape of sound. When you breathe in a sine wave, you align yourself with the physics of creation. You stop being a glitch. You become the signal. Practice this, not when you are stressed, but when you are calm. Build the muscle memory so that when the storm comes, and it will come, your body automatically shifts into this rhythm. You will stand in the middle of chaos, and while everyone else is hyperventilating in panic, you will be breathing in a slow, silent, invisible 5.5 rhythm, and you will be the only one who can see the exit.
Chapter 7. The Observer State. We have mastered the mechanism, the body. Now we must ascend to the pilot, the mind. This chapter is the most esoteric, yet the most practical. We are going to use the breath to achieve the observer state. In the philosophy of the Matrix 963, we draw a sharp distinction between the avatar and the player. The avatar is your body, your name, your job, your history, your emotions, and your thoughts.
This is the character you are playing in the 3D simulation. The player is the consciousness that is witnessing the avatar. This is the soul. This is the I am. Most people, the sleepers, have merged completely with their avatar. They think they are the voice in their head. They think they are the anxiety in their chest. When the avatar feels sad, they say, "I am sad." They have no distance. They are lost in the movie. The goal of spiritual awakening is not to fix the avatar. It is to realize you are not the avatar. It is to step out of the screen and into the theater. And the breath is the door handle. Why the breath? Alan Watts famously said, "The breath is the only thing that is both voluntary and involuntary. It sits right on the border between the conscious and the unconscious." When you ignore the breath, the matrix runs it, autopilot. When you watch the breath, you run it, pilot.
The psychological shift. Here is what happens when you apply the quantum breath technique from Chapter 6. You start to breathe rhythmically. 5.5 in, 5.5 out. Your mind will inevitably wander. It will start to chatter. "This is boring. I have to do laundry. I'm worried about money. My nose itches." A sleeper follows these thoughts. They get on the thought train and ride it to a destination of anxiety. The chosen one does something different. You stay with the breath. You notice the thought. You see it, but you do not board the train. You let the train pass. And in that moment of not boarding, a gap opens up. A distance is created. Here is the thought, over there. Here is the breath, right here. And here am I, watching both of them. Who is the I that is watching the thought? The thought is noise. The I is silence. The thought is time-bound, past or future. The I is timeless, now. This I is the observer. Hacking the emotional body. This state is the ultimate weapon against emotional suffering. Let's say you receive bad news, a shock to the system. Your avatar reacts. Cortisol spikes. The heart races. The stomach churns. The avatar wants to panic. It wants to scream. It wants to go into a drama loop. This is the program running. If you are asleep, you become the panic. You say, "This is a disaster." If you are awake, you activate the observer. You immediately shift your focus to the breath. 5.5 in, 5.5 out. You watch the sensation of panic in the body. You look at the tight chest. You look at the racing heart, and you say to yourself, "My avatar is experiencing a high energy reaction." Notice the language, not "I am panicked," but "My avatar is experiencing energy." You objectify the emotion. You turn it into data. You look at it with the cold curiosity of a scientist looking at a petri dish. Interesting. The heart rate is elevated. The palms are sweating. The mind is projecting catastrophe scenarios. You watch it all, but you keep breathing. You are the sky. The cloud is just a cloud. The cloud can be dark.
It can be stormy. It can deliver lightning. But the cloud can never damage the sky. The sky is vast, open, and untouched. The sky simply holds the space for the cloud to pass, and it will pass. Everything in the 3D world is impermanent. No emotion lasts forever. The only thing that sustains an emotion is your identification with it. When you refuse to identify, when you stay as the observer, you cut the fuel line to the drama. The panic runs out of gas. The wave crashes and recedes, and you remain, standing, unshaken. This is the state of sovereignty. The matrix controls you through your reactivity. It pokes you, you jump. It scares you, you shrink. It tempts you, you crave. You are a puppet on strings. The observer cuts the strings. When you are in the observer state, you are untriggerable. You are unmanipulatable. You become a glitch in their system because you no longer follow the predicted algorithm of fear.
The ultimate realization. As you deepen this practice, the observer state shifts from a technique to an identity. You stop being a person who practices breathing. You become the breath itself. You realize that you are not the thinker. You are the awareness in which thoughts appear. You are the consciousness that is looking out through your eyes right now. This is the 5D shift. 5D is not a place you go to. It is not a planet where everyone holds hands and sings. 5D is a perspective. It is the perspective of the soul witnessing the human experience. It is the realization that this life is a game, a very serious, very realistic game, but a game nonetheless. And the breath is your controller. When you forget the breath, you think the game is real. You suffer. When you remember the breath, you remember it's a game. You play. So practice the 5.5 rhythm, not just to lower your blood pressure. Practice it to loosen the glue of the ego. Practice it to create space between the stimulus and the response. In that space lies your freedom. In that space lies your power. In that space, you stop being a victim of the matrix and you start being the architect of your own reality.
Chapter 8: Reprogramming the Script. We have cleared the trauma from the body. We have calmed the vagus nerve. We have learned to observe the panic without becoming the panic. Now we must answer the final question. What are you going to do with this clear signal? Imagine you have just wiped a computer hard drive clean of viruses. The machine is running fast. It is silent. It is ready. But a clean computer is useless without software. If you do not install a new program, the old viruses will simply download themselves again from the cloud of the collective consciousness. You must intentionally install the 5D operating system. This brings us to the intersection of breathwork and the law of assumption. Most people try to manifest their desires, money, love, health, while they are in a state of high beta waveforms. They are stressed, they are rushing, they are trying too hard. Here is the physics. You cannot reprogram the subconscious mind when you are in beta. In beta, the critical factor, the logic gatekeeper, is standing guard. You say, "I am abundant." The critical factor looks at your bank account and says, "No, you're not. Access denied." To bypass the gatekeeper, you must lower your brain waves to theta, 4 to 7 hertz. Theta is the twilight zone. It is the state of hypnosis. It is the state of deep meditation. It is the state of the quantum pause. In theta, the gatekeeper goes on a break. The door to the root directory is wide open. Whatever you plant in theta becomes law. And guess what is the fastest elevator to take you down to theta? The breath.
The hypnagogic window. There are 2 times a day when the portal between the 3D world and the 5D quantum field opens naturally. Hypnagogia, the 30 minutes before you fall asleep. Hypnopompia, the 30 minutes after you wake up. During these windows, your pineal gland releases specific neurochemicals, melatonin and phenyline, that make your brain highly plastic. You are literally in a state of programmable liquid. But what does the sleeper, the 99%, do with this sacred window? They doom scroll. They lay in bed, staring at a blue light screen, consuming news about wars, watching drama, feeling jealous of other people's lives. Or they replay the highlight reel of failure from their day. I shouldn't have said that. I'm so worried about tomorrow. Do you understand what this does? You are taking the seed of fear, planting it in the fertile soil of theta, and watering it with your attention right before you sleep. Your subconscious mind then marinates in that fear for 8 hours. It cooks it, it solidifies it, and you wake up the next morning and wonder why your life is a nightmare. Your life is a nightmare because you programmed it to be one the night before. The Chosen One's Protocol. The Chosen One treats the hypnagogic window as a sacred ceremony. You must become a sniper of your own attention. Here is the nightly protocol to rewrite the script. Step 1. The descent. The physiological sigh. Lying in bed, lights out, phone in another room. This is non-negotiable. You need to drop the body into safety immediately. Perform 3 minutes of the physiological sigh. Double inhale through nose, long sigh out through mouth. Inhale, inhale. Ah. This dumps the residual CO2 and tells the vagus nerve the day is over. The armor can come off. Step 2. The coherence. 5.5 loop. Switch to the coherent breathing we learned in Chapter 6. In for 5.5, out for 5.5. Silent, nasal. Do this until you feel your body getting heavy. You might feel a tingling sensation or a feeling of floating. This is the sign that you have crossed from beta to alpha. The gatekeeper is getting sleepy. Step 3. The implant. The loop. Now you do not use words. Words are too clunky for the deep subconscious. The subconscious speaks in images and feelings. Construct a short 5-second scene that implies your desire is already fulfilled.
If you want health, imagine yourself running up a hill, feeling the wind, feeling the strength in your legs. If you want abundance, imagine shaking the hand of a friend who says, "I'm so proud of your success," and feel the texture of their hand and the warmth of the emotion. If you want peace, imagine sitting on a porch, taking a deep breath and feeling a profound sense of "it is done." Loop this scene over and over again. Coordinate it with the breath. Inhale, pull the image into your mind. Exhale, feel the emotion of gratitude expanding in your chest. Inhale, see it. Exhale, feel it. Do this until you drift off into unconsciousness. Let this scene be the bridge that carries you to sleep. If you do this, you are handing your subconscious a blueprint. While you sleep, your higher intelligence will go to work. It will rearrange your neural pathways. It will broadcast a new frequency signal to the quantum field. You will wake up differently. You won't wake up with the usual dread. You will wake up with a quiet confidence. You won't react to the old triggers. You will start to see coincidences, synchronicities, lining up to fulfill the scene you planted. This is not magic. This is neurophysics. You changed the input, breath plus image, during the critical right state, theta. The output must change. It is a law. But remember, the breath is the carrier wave. Without the slow, rhythmic breath, the brain stays in beta, and the seed bounces off the concrete floor of the conscious mind. The breath softens the soil. Breathe, soften, plant, sleep. This is how you hack the simulation. The living antenna. We have traveled a long way together in this transmission. We have journeyed from the microscopic alveoli of your lungs to the cosmic wiring of your nervous system. We have debunked the myths of deep breathing and replaced them with the science of the Bohr Effect. We have learned that your anxiety is not a character flaw. It is a chemical imbalance caused by a misunderstanding of how to operate your own machine. And now, you stand at the threshold of a new way of being. You are no longer just a breather. You are a living antenna. Think about what is happening right now. The air you are breathing is not empty space. It is filled with Wi-Fi signals, radio waves, 5D frequencies, and the thoughts of the collective consciousness. When your vagus nerve is blocked, when you are in survival mode, you are a broken antenna. You only pick up the static. You only pick up the fear. You feel isolated, disconnected, and weak. But when you activate the quantum breath, when you slow down, when you cultivate that holy air hunger, when you pause in the void, you tune the antenna, you clean the signal. Suddenly, you stop picking up the noise of the matrix and you start picking up the broadcast of the source. This is what it means to be the chosen one. It does not mean you are special. It means you are tuned in. It means you have taken responsibility for your frequency. You realize that your breath is not just for you. Your breath is a service to the world. When you breathe coherently, you become a walking pillar of calm in a chaotic world. You walk into a grocery store where everyone is stressed, and your electromagnetic field, your heart field, radiates a signal of safety. People calm down around you, and they don't even know why. Your children stop crying. Your partner stops fighting. Your animals come closer to you. You are healing the collective simply by regulating your own nervous system. This is the ultimate activism. You do not fight the darkness with more shouting. You fight the darkness by becoming a stable light. And the fuel for that light is the breath. So I have a challenge for you. Do not let this video be just another piece of content you consumed. Do not let this be another dopamine hit that you forget in 10 minutes. This is an initiation. You have the manual. You know the code. The tiger is gone. The war is over. It is time to take your foot off the gas pedal. It is time to engage the parasympathetic wings. For the next 7 days, make a contract with yourself. Every time you reach for your phone, take one conscious breath instead. Every time you feel the tightening in your chest, take one conscious breath instead. Every time you wait for a red light, take one conscious breath instead. Reclaim those stolen moments. Steal your life back from the matrix, one inhale at a time. You are the architect. The breath is your tool. Reality is your canvas. Breathe it into existence. We are watching you. We are breathing with you. We are the 5D collective, and we are waiting for you in the pause. Now it is time to seal this activation. It is time to override the old identity of the anxious survivor and install the new identity of the conscious creator. The code must be entered manually. The pilot must sign the logbook. You have the tool. Now you must become the tool. The separation between the breather and the breath must dissolve. Execute the final command. Declare your sovereignty to the quantum field. Right below, I am the breath. Let this command echo in your subconscious forever. I see you. I feel you. I am you. I am the Matrix 963. Shift.